So when we talk about the concept of wokeness, there's so many different definitions of what that means, right? It was originally a black thing. Black people used this term, and then it was kind of adopted to describe a larger movement, a sort of identity politics-based movement, anti-racism, gender politics, all of that. Then there was quite a bit of effort within that movement. There's this sort of, there's the cancel culture stuff, the censorship stuff, and a lot of sort of overreach and this constantly aggrieved and offended nature of a lot of these people in this group on the left. It's a specific group on the left, sort of started in academia, has moved into all kinds of aspects of public life. It certainly doesn't describe everyone on the left, but then the right has come along and sort of captured this term and use any sort of liberal thing, anything at all, anything on the left that's discussed at all is described as woke now, which is certainly not accurate. But it's a tough word, because what does it really mean? Now, when we look at something like Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, there is some diversity in there that you didn't see in the Lord of the Rings movies. And at first it's a little like, oh, wait a minute, like this is a European sort of, Northern European and English mythos. These are stories that Tolkien wrote about, his own piece of the world and the history of that world. So that seems a little odd that we have so many, we have all these black people in the Rings of Power. But really, like, is that woke, or is that just the march of progress, where we want to have more representation because we want to have more opportunity for actors of all different colors, and we want to be able, we want people to be able to relate to different. We don't want to, it just would be a little odd. You have to admit, it would be odd to make this $1 billion show and just have only white people in it in the year 2022. So I think that the creators of the show obviously they're going to piss somebody off no matter what, and they've decided that they'd rather be a little more open-hearted and gregarious and say, we're going to have a little more diversity in this than during when Jackson made the Lord of the Rings trilogy. There was less of a cultural movement to include more diverse racial backgrounds, etc., etc. So the world has shifted, and I think overall in a positive way, right? I do think that ultimately we want more diverse storytelling. We want more shows like Kingdom, which is a Korean show. I keep saying we need more like African RPGs. Like we need more, big epic African fantasies that are, and in a way, something like Black Panther was that movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. To me, I think you have to go a little bit deeper into intention, and you have to go into, it's not just, to have, strong female characters or black characters. That does not in and of itself mean that there's a woke agenda at play. It may just mean that storytellers want to have a diverse, they have this huge cast and they may as well make it diverse. Now, if you start to have, I think a good way of looking at it is if this storytelling is saying that that like the women are better than the men, and the men are all portrayed as weak or vicious or misogynistic, kind of like in She-Hulk, they do that to some degree. That is kind of sending a message. That is saying that men are bad and women are good, and obviously that doesn't really help the cause of equality and progress, right? If all the characters who are minorities or women are portrayed as like the good and noble, and all of the characters who are white or male are portrayed as bad, I could see how that's sort of like an overreaction. That's being overly woke. That's taking it too far. Not just because you're portraying, white men as the bad guys, but also because you're denying, black women their ability to be villains. And really, again, equality means that anybody can be a villain, anybody can be a hero, and and maybe hopefully we're writing interesting characters that can be a little bit of both. So when I look at the Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, which is a mouthful, I say I hope that it has good stories. I hope that the storytelling is good. I hope that the script is on point. I hope that these things are in place. I don't care that that there's a black female dwarf. I don't care that there is a black elven archer soldier guy. I don't care that some of the Harfoots, like ancestor to the hobbits, have darker skin. There's there's no reason to get hung up on this. And I say this as someone who has criticized a lot of like overly woke, censorious, cancel culture type stuff. But honestly, why get so hung up on this? It's a fantasy. And it's a fantasy that doesn't really deal with racial issues in the first place. There are some stories, like Joe Abercrombie's books, where race does play a part, and an important part. Like there's a character in his books in the first Law trilogy who's from the East, who's darker skinned, and refers to the white people in the sort of main area that the stories take place as pinks. Now that wouldn't work if there was just like so much like token diversity that it didn't really make sense in the context anymore. But there actually are immigrants and all these other things in those books and in that society. So there's going to be diversity in those stories, but it's actually going to be, part of the story. The racial tensions and xenophobia and all that is going to be part of that story. So if they ever adapt it, we'll see. Whereas in Tolkien's work, there's really nothing other than like elves, dwarves, and humans as races. There's no discussion of like, black people or white people, or there's not really like, there's the sense of outsiders and all that, but there's no real discussion of like skin color, etc., etc. So it's pretty easy to sort of make that leap, make that adaptation, and just make it more diverse. And honestly, Tolkien's dead. He doesn't care anymore. I think if he was around, he's a pretty kind man. He wasn't woke as people have described him. He was a Catholic conservative, but I don't think he'd get too hung up on this either in this day and age. So I don't think, I think ultimately, like, what side of history do you want to be on? Like, I want to be on the side of free speech. I don't like censorship. I want to be on the side of the human project where we're trying to make things better for everyone all the time. And I don't like to get caught up in discussions of race or gender. I don't like to get caught up in these things that often do divide us, because I think it's that ultimately this is a class struggle. But I certainly don't want to be the one that says, oh, we can't have black people in Tolkien. We can't have black people in Lord of the Rings because it's based on Europe. It's like, it's a fantasy. Who cares, honestly? And there's plenty of white people. It's not like, Galadriel, Elrond, there's lots. The main Harfoots, Durin. There's a lot. He's a dwarf, but he's white. If you're worried, if you're getting so hung up on race just because you think that by default that means it's woke, then you're missing the point of what wokeness is and what the problems with wokeness are. And it's not diversity. It's using that diversity as a cultural cudgel to berate people and slam a message down someone's throat. Now, if the Rings of Power does that, okay, let's talk about that. But right now, all we have to go on is the fact that some people from a different racial background than white people were cast. And honestly, that is good progress, not bad. So, all right, little nuance never hurts. Let's try to have some nuance in this conversation. Let's try to be open-minded. I'm trying to be open-minded. I'm trying to think deeper, and it's not always easy. Thanks for watching. I will have my reviews. I've seen the first 2 episodes of The Rings of Power, and I will have my reviews very soon. So stay tuned. Peace.